Questions now from the party spokespeople, Welsh Conservative spokesperson James Evans.
Diolch Llywydd. Cabinet Secretary, I want to raise the serious issue of survival rates for less survivable cancers in Wales. I attended and spoke at an event last week in the Senedd organised by the CPG on cancer, and the reality is that in Wales has not seen any meaningful improvements in the outcome for these cancers in decades, and we continue to lag behind comparable countries with less survivable cancers. A recent analysis shows that on average, 1 year survival rate for someone diagnosed with a less survivable cancer in Wales is just 39% compared to over 70% for all other cancers. These are quite stark figures, Cabinet Secretary, and we simply cannot afford, morally or financially, to keep neglecting these cancers, which include liver, lung, brain, esophageal, pancreatic and stomach cancers. They take a heavy toll on our communities, particularly those in areas of high deprivation. So, Cabinet Secretary, can you set out for me what your government is doing to prioritise these 6 less survivable cancers and develop a coordinated strategy to improve survival rates across Wales for people suffering with less survivable cancers?
The member is right to emphasise the importance of ensuring that people who suffer with these cancers are entitled to the timely care that we wish to see. In fact, some of the tumour sites that he referred to in his statement are ones where our ability to meet the targets which we have set are at the very highest, often meeting 100% of that target, which I'm very pleased with. He's right also to say that a number of the cancers that he refers to, perhaps specifically lung cancer, are highly correlated with social and economic deprivation. He will remember that I said in the Chamber a few weeks ago that I was anticipating advice during the course of the forthcoming months from Public Health Wales about how one might design a lung screening programme, for example, which would build on the developments which we've seen successfully in the Cwm Taf Morgannwg Health Board area, where the results of those pilots have been very, very effective. I've asked Public Health Wales to expedite the advice which they give me in relation to that, recognising, as the member says, the urgency and importance of this matter, and I envisage getting that advice in the forthcoming weeks so that I can then make a decision in relation to that programme.
That's really positive to hear, Cabinet Secretary, because I did want to focus my next question on lung cancer, because it does disproportionately impact on our disadvantaged communities across Wales, and it does have the widest inequality gap of all common cancers, with people in equality deprived areas being more likely to get it and more likely to die from it. And that equality is growing. And what's more concerning is that since 2022, as we've said before, that England has had that nationally recognised targeted lung cancer screening programme for over 1 million people who've ever smoked. And over 1 million people who've been screened there, with thousands of them detected with that early lung cancer, and actually getting them on those treatment pathways so more of them can survive. I know you said that advice is coming, Cabinet Secretary. I don't want to preempt you, but are you minded currently that this is a route that the Welsh Government want to go down? Because I think the results we've seen in England are very, very positive, and I think it's something I'd love to see us rolling out here. So if you can give some sort of positive indications of how you're going to look at this, it'd be quite welcomed, I'm sure, for not just me to hear that, but also those charities that have been campaigning on this for a very long time.
I was able some months ago, through the good offices of Buffy Williams, in whose constituency one of the pilot projects was being carried forward, to meet with the clinicians who were leading the pilot project and 10 of us as well, in order to discuss the findings in the project and how this might be able to be rolled out more rapidly. As he says, there is already good progress in England. It is not yet fully rolled out across England. It's about 25%, as I understand it, and that gives us opportunities to learn from that, from the experience, and draw on their insights of that early rollout that they have been undertaking. I think it is important to wait for the full advice, because it will have funding and other implications beyond that. But I am minded, if we can, to be able to make progress rapidly in relation to this kind of screening programme. I was really very struck by the statistics which the clinician was able to share with us, which suggested that the results of the pilot in the Rhondda specifically had shown an ability to increase the survival rate for lung cancer specifically very, very dramatically, as a consequence of the initial trial. And I think that that requires us to focus our energies in relation to that. So I'm looking forward to getting the advice, and I'll be looking forward to welcoming the advice when I get it.
Lovely. And finally, Cabinet Secretary, another area which I'd like to touch on is actually bowel cancer. What we're seeing in the evidence is actually a lot more younger people now presenting with bowel cancer and being diagnosed with it. And I think that's very concerning for all of us in this chamber, that more younger people are being diagnosed with this horrific type of cancer. I recently visited Cancer Research Wales, and they're doing some leading work actually in early detection of bowel cancer through looking at genes and different types of proteins that people can actually get through blood tests. And I think that's a really positive step. It's less invasive than actually some of the other ways that we detect bowel cancer. So I'm just interested to hear from you, Cabinet Secretary. What is the Welsh Government doing to prioritise work and research in this area? And what more can we do to increase screening of younger people who do show with sometimes vague symptoms of bowel cancer? Because if we are seeing those younger people dying and being diagnosed with this disease, we need to get on top of it as quickly as possible to make sure we give those people as much opportunity to live that fuller life and get over cancer and survive cancer. Diolch fawr.
The member is right to say that bowel cancer is an area where early detection is again able to very significantly change the trajectory of the disease and increase, often substantially, the likelihood of survival. I recently found myself having moved into the cohort of people entitled to screening by virtue of a significant birthday, not so recently actually. The screening program is actually very, very effective, and it's very straightforward, and the take-up is good, but we would obviously want to encourage more people to take up the screening which is available, and people will be written to when they are eligible for that. The member makes the argument that we should consider extending the age range, I think. Those judgments are always clinically led, and they are informed by the effectiveness of the current programme and, as he was implying, the availability of other opportunities and other mechanisms for detecting cancer as well. I would just reassure him, the government does support a number of research initiatives in relation to cancers of all types, and that's an important commitment for us as a government, and we remain committed to it.